Steve Jobs of Apple Computers died of pancreatic cancer at the age of 55. He was worth $1 billion when he died and had 300 to 400 patents to his credit. Before his death, he famously said before an audience, take care of your health, because without health, you cannot enjoy your wealth. So many of us are spending our health so as to gain wealth, and then we spend our wealth so as to regain our health, but sometimes it is too late. We live in the age of trailblazing technologies of AIs and GIs. The next one is to be SI, artificial superintelligence, under which the AI agent is going to be brighter and smarter than Isaac Newton and Albert Einstein. The next one is to be OI, artificial organoid intelligence. When that one is out, diseases like cancer, kidney failure, coronary artery diseases will all disappear like dodo bats 400 years ago from the face of the earth. Excellent wish list. Let us keep our fingers crossed. When the Human Genome Project was complete 25 years ago, the leader of the project, Francis Collins, announced that in the next 10 years' time, that was 25 years ago, he said that in the next 10 years' time, we will all be carrying a little genome card in our pocket as we carry Visa card and MasterCard, so that if we end up in hospitals, the doctors will swipe the card and will immediately detect which gene mutation is causing the problem, and the patient will be sent off for gene therapy. The then American President Bill Clinton announced in his own inimitable style that today we in America have discovered the code in which God created us all. But 25 years down the line, we are nowhere near anywhere towards that. In fact, we are sicker today than we have ever been as a society. 1 out of every 3 in the world today is affected by one or the other chronic illnesses, which now account for 90% of hospital visits and 80% of death in the world. Couch potatoes live longer than doctors. That is the title of a book written by an American doctor. I'm reminded of a famous quote here by Donald Rumsfeld, the former American diplomat and politician, who said this on a different context, but it is relevant to the subject here. He said there are known knowns, there are known unknowns, there are unknown unknowns, which means there are things that we know, there are things that we know that we don't know, there are things that we don't know that we don't know. This is very true to life and biology. This is more true to life and biology than to anything else in the world. No doubt, technology and pharmacology are excellent for acute diseases, infectious diseases, surgeries, heart attacks, accidents, trauma care, x-rays, endoscopies, and so on and so forth, but not for chronic conditions such as cancer, kidney failure, coronary artery diseases, for which conventional medicine still doesn't have any cure. It only has controls. As a result, they become acute in the end, and we succumb to these conditions and die. This is because allopathic medicine is based on scientific reductionism, which means a human body is a physico-chemical machine which can be corrected only through physical and chemical interventions, which means through drugs and surgeries. In the words of Richard Dawkins, the famous British evolutionary biologist, we are all lumbering robots, molecular automata, intellectual zombies driven by our genes. Our hearts are pumps, our heads are computers, according to him. Our eyes are lenses. In the words of Aubrey de Grey, another British biochemical gerontologist, gerontology is the study of aging. He talked about a replacement theory for biology, which means we may have a car designed or built to last for 10 or 20 years, but provided we have good maintenance and replace all the parts that break down from time to time, we can drive the car forever. If this holds true for our cars, why would it not hold true for our bodies? He asked. This is because mechanistic materialism has been the dominant worldview for the last 100 years, which is a belief that matter is the only fundamental substance in nature, and that everything in the universe is matter and material interactions, and that there is nothing non-physical exist anywhere in any form. But this view has now been shaken, rather shattered, by the now emerging new science of the very small, known as the quantum and the theoretical. It is now a very successful and very powerful and extremely accurate science, but theoretical and mathematical. It is the science of our android, artificial intelligence. It is the science of our GPS, the GPTs. Physics and chemistry are fully into it. Quantum technology today accounts for 75% of the world economy today. Only healthcare is still not into the quantum. It's not fully into the quantum. A fight has now ensued between classical physics and quantum physics, between the old science and the new science, primarily because health science is still not into the quantum. Because of this, the world scientific community, consisting of some of the brightest and the smartest scientific minds of the 21st century, are now divided among themselves and are fighting over what is science and what is not science, or how to do science. I have discussed this subject in my previous video at some length, and I don't want to go over the same details again here. The link of the video is given below. The message through that video was that reality at the tiniest scale, reality at the smallest scale, is not matter and material interactions. Similarly, biology at the tiniest scale is not physics and chemistry, because the action of life is the motion of molecules inside us. The motion of molecules is the action of atoms inside. Which means unless we understand the atomic, the non-physical, we cannot understand the biologic, the physical. This is why Nikola Tesla, the great inventor of the alternating current, said 100 years ago that the more the science understands the non-physics of life, the more the science will understand the physics of life. One of the most intriguing discoveries of modern science is the conclusion that this physical body is not physical. The air we breathe is made exactly of the same stuff this body is made of, said David Icke. He said so because atoms make molecules, molecules make matter, matters make everything. But atoms are empty of matter. That is the scientific reality we live with today. My objective through a series of videos is to help people understand the non-physics of biology, of health, the less studied about by regular biology, which is now being studied by the now emerging new science of the very small, known as the quantum and theoretical, so as to understand the deeper dimensions of biology, beyond the physical, beyond the chemical, beyond the cellular, beyond the molecular. Because this enables one to understand biology from the perspective of the quantum. This enables one to do many things on one's own, to shore up one's health, non-pharmacologically. For example, if someone wants to do a little contemplative practice or mindfulness meditation, or enter into a little higher or altered state of consciousness briefly but regularly, one can then do it on his own, at his own facility, understanding the science behind it. Because these are no longer mystical, magical, esoteric phenomena. These are tangible, verifiable, measurable features of our bodies. Because mind-matter nexus is a reality, mind-brain-body connection is a reality. Psychology alters biology. Psychoneuroimmunology is no longer a philosophy, it's a science today. Psychology modulates neurology, which in turn modulates immunology. This is what is now known as psychoneuroimmunology. A different state of mind produces different state of biology. In fact, some scientists have these days gone to the extent of saying that mind is primary and matter is derivative. This is what is now known as panpsychism. I don't want to go that far to vouch for that because it is too scholastic a subject. But it is an established fact today. It is a scientific truth today that our thoughts are electric, our feelings are magnetic, our cells are semiconductors. They conduct electricity when certain conditions are met. They block electricity when certain conditions are not met. Our genes are antennas that pick up signals that are electric and magnetic. The electricity in our body doesn't pass through wires. The electricity in our body is ionic. Ions are atoms. Atoms can pass through barriers. Our cells are semi-porous. There are pores in our cells through which electricity passes. It's called ionic channels. I don't want to get too technical anywhere. Recent studies have now identified 3 factors as reasons behind our inability to fix chronic illnesses. Number 1, 65% of the current chronic illnesses are psychogenic, only 35% are organic. This is largely the reason why chronic illnesses are few and far between among animals. This is also the reason why animals don't have heart attacks, particularly of clogged arteries as humans have. Number 2, only when the body is 60% into diseases, symptoms begin to show up in the case of chronic illnesses. And number 3, these are changes in the software of our body. These are changes in the programs of our body. These are changes in the information of our body. They're not physical, they're not chemical, they're not mechanical. Now let me expand item number 1, which is of the utmost importance. I said 65% of the current chronic illnesses are psychogenic and only 35% are organic, which means only 35% of our diseases are caused by incorrect food, inappropriate diet, industrialized food, environmental toxins, sedentary lifestyles, and so on. But 65% of the current chronic illnesses are psychogenic, which means psychosocial factors driven, which means how you think, how you feel, how you emote, how you react, how you reflect, how you behave, how you believe. All of them produce metabolites inside your body which change your biochemistry. It changes the biochemical profile of your body on a moment-to-moment basis. 7 out of 10 thoughts that we think are either redundant or negative according to cognitive neuroscience studies today. Therefore, the thoughts that we think are as important as the foods that we eat. It is important to be thought smart and heart smart in the interest of health. We all try to be head smart. Head smartness is important to be successful in business, to be successful in profession, but heart smartness and the thought smartness are crucial for maintenance of health. Because Platonic values such as love, compassion, kindness, affection, these are somehow associated with the production of good hormones and neurotransmitters. They fine-tune our immune system. In fact, many chemicals that are required by our body to sustain life, to support health, are produced in the body itself spontaneously, endogenously, at the right time, for the right reason, at the right dose. This is why an American physician said that the most exquisite pharmacy in the world is right between our 2 ears, by which he means our central nervous system, by which he means our brain. 2 decades ago, I wrote in the Arab News of Saudi Arabia on a different context, but it is relevant to the subject here. I wrote that all the loveliness in the world can be reduced to its first syllable. The first syllable of loveliness is love. I wrote it because the chemical, the hormone, the oxytocin produced when a boy and a girl are in love, it's not just another love hormone. They are associated with the most important antibody of our body known as IgG, immunoglobulin G, which is the primary molecule responsible for neutralizing nearly 80% of the toxins, viruses and bacteria of our body. Despite all these facts, a section of scientists who are hardcore materialists still believe in the gene-centric view of biology, popularly known as genetic determinism, which is the belief that genes determine diseases. They believe that genes are everything in our body. This view is now being increasingly discredited by many experts for a number of valid reasons. Let me cite some of them here. Number one, a gene as a molecule has revealed only 1% of its secret to the geneticist. For example, just 20 genes make us different from a chimpanzee, which is not even 1% difference. Chimpanzees are said to be our closest living evolutionary cousins, sharing 90% of their DNA with humans. An American physician humorously said that a chimpanzee can jump only from one branch of a tree to the other, but we humans can jump from one planet to the other. Your gene and my gene are copies of the same book that differs only by some spelling mistakes. Number 3, only 5% of our genes are, only 5% of our diseases are monogenic, which means single gene disorders, which means if you have them, you are bound to be affected by them. The examples are cystic fibrosis or sickle cell anemia. 95% of our diseases are caused by multiple gene expressions. Cancer is said to be caused by expression of 11 genes, not just by oncogene, the cancer-causing gene. If tested, almost all of us may have oncogene in our body, but most of us don't have clinical cancers. Many African sex workers were some time back tested HIV positive, but none of them had clinical AIDS. Magic Johnson, the famous American basketball champion, was tested HIV positive 40 years ago, but he still doesn't have clinical AIDS. He's still alive and kicking. Presence of gene is not presence of illness. Genes are information. Genes cannot self-actualize. They have no causal powers. They're not the causative agents of illnesses. These contradictions apart, compactivity or density of genes makes it more difficult to work on. Genes are made up of DNA. With DNA, the double helix is 10 to the minus 9 meter in size, which means 1/1000th of a meter, which is the smallest which we can scientifically capture today. But DNA, the double helix, is made of polyatomic bond. Atoms are 10 to the minus 10 meter in size, which means it is 1/1,000,000th of a meter, which cannot be captured through any known scientific technique. All this is because the technology in our body was not designed or engineered. They evolved through random mutations and natural selections, through millions upon millions of years. Life is said to be the oldest artifact on earth because genetic information got transmitted through millions upon millions of years. Life had 1 billion years to perfect itself through trials and errors. Our science is only 200 years old. We have learned to write only 5,000 years ago. We have learned to speak only 50,000 years ago. We have been on earth only for the last 300,000 years as Homo sapiens. If we humans can tinker around with silicon and photon and can come up with quantum computers and quantum cryptography, considered to be the crowning achievement of technology and innovation today, in just 200 years of science and 5,000 years of civilization, why not life forms through 1 billion years develop quantum systems in their brains and bodies using two variables, 0 and 1 of classical bits. We have developed all these modern electronics and electrifying technologies around us. Why not life forms through 1 billion years develop quantum systems using 4 variables biologically known as adenine, thymine, cytosine and guanine, popularly known by their first letters as A, T, C, G, known as the 4 alphabets of life, the 4 building blocks of all living organisms on earth. These are the reasons why living organisms are far more difficult to be controlled or corrected or even comprehended than non-living things are, because life is pronouncedly quantum, life is manifestly quantum, life is visibly quantum. Let me cite some instances here in this respect too. We are made up of 50 trillion cells. Each cell in our body contains, all cells in our body contain exactly the same information, the same genome. They are exactly the same physically, they are exactly the same chemically, they are exactly the same genomically. Yet when they are in different places of our body, they perform completely different functions. When they are in our heart chamber, they pump blood. When they are in our kidney chamber, they purify blood. When they are in our head, they process information. We have only named them differently as neurons, nephrons, cardiocytes for cardiac cells, for our purpose of distinguishing them. The two most important cellular processes of our body are known as mitosis and apoptosis, which means programmed cellular birth, programmed cellular death, which means every cell in our body has to divide according to a program only for a few weeks or months, and then the cells have to die. They have to commit suicide. Cancer cells are cells that refuse to die. Instead, they keep on replicating, they keep on dividing, which means in order to keep us alive, our cells have to die, our cells have to commit suicide. In other words, the key to health is in the death within. This is the mystery of biology. Experimental data revealed that cancer is caused by proton tunneling from one strand of DNA to the other during replication, causing an alteration in the genetic code. But since proton tunneling is a quantum phenomenon, molecular geneticists and chemists have now joined theoretical physicists in an attempt to tackle cancer through a new technique known as, it is a quantum technique known as kinetic isotope effect. Biology 101 is enzymology, because a vast majority of metabolic reactions are catalyzed only through enzymes. But how an enzyme catalyzes a particular chemical reaction is still a mystery to regular biology, because the enzyme as a molecule can be classically analyzed as chemical balls and chemical bonds, but the receptor on the enzyme is the receptor on the enzyme that triggers the enzyme action is quantum mechanical. Electron tunneling is said to play a role in enzyme catalysis, hence the difficulty to understand enzyme catalysis. Take the case of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the single most important biological process on Earth, which still remains a riddle to regular science because it is quantum mechanical. I take the case of bird navigation. Birds navigate from one continent to the other, traveling 10,000, 12,000 kilometers, for which we humans need a GPS and a jumbo jet. They migrate 10 to 12,000 kilometers using quantum entanglement. Quantum entanglement was considered pseudoscience for decades, but recently quantum entanglement was awarded Nobel Prize. Biology's biggest problem is that quantum effects cannot be studied or measured inside living systems, inside living cells, because the mechanism that you want to test about has to be separated, shielded, isolated from all other influences. It should be done in a vacuum, it should be done in absolute zero temperature. Only when all the thermodynamic chaos are removed, the quantum effects can be studied. But biology is hot, wet, and messy. We have 50 trillion cells. Each cell has 100,000 chemical reactions per second. But quantum effects disappear in picosecond, which is faster than the speed of the light. Though quantum biology is still not mainstream in healthcare, quantumness is already into healthcare in a number of ways. Let me give you some examples in this respect too. Our hospitals use many diagnostic equipments that are functionally quantum. The examples are MRI, MCG, MEG. MCG is a magnetocardiogram, unlike ECG, electrocardiogram. There are no wires, there are no electrodes. They read the heart's field that is outside our body, that's outside our heart. MEG is magnetoencephalogram. Unlike electroencephalogram, there are no wires, there are no electrodes. It reads, the equipment reads the brain field that is outside our body. None of these equipments touch the patient in any way. All this indicates that the energy fields are real, tangible, and measurable features of our bodies. Our physicians use many quantum jargons without understanding quantum mechanics. They say, they tell the patient that ionizing radiation causes cancer. Ions are atoms, therefore it is a quantum mechanical effect. Doctors say unpaired electrons produce free radicals which cause asthma, allergy, type 2 diabetes, and many age-related illnesses. Free radicals are reactive oxygen species, which literally means excess of oxygens inside our body which are harmful to health, for which we use antioxide to remove the damaging oxide. It is oxygen that gives us life. It is excess of oxygen that takes away your life in the end.